Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Joseph Young. I serve at Waukegan College as the College Persistence Manager. I also work with our 11th grade and 12th grade advisors. My colleague Angie Sage has joined us today. If you want to briefly introduce yourself, Angie.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Good morning, my name is Angie Sage, and I am the Individual Giving Manager at Waukegan College.
Just a little louder.
Okay, and I, first and foremost, thank you for hosting us today, so really appreciate it. So I am the Individual Giving Manager at Waukegan College, so I'm on the fundraising side, and truly appreciate, I've been speaking with several of you, so I truly appreciate the involvement that you have with us, the partnership. We have a couple of events that are coming up, the year-end celebration and our gala that we're bringing back in October 5th. It's a Sunday from 2 to 5. So I'll be able to, if you have any questions, I'll be able to provide more information. But again, thank you so much for hosting us. Back to you.
Thank you, Angie. Appreciate it. So Angie's great, really amazing. A lot of our team have come to the table with so many different gifts and talents, and we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that we do without Angie and without you all, right? We've been in partnership with St. James for a number of years now, and highly value, just to kind of co-sign with what Andrew was saying, the relationships and getting the word out there and all of the different things that you all do to help support our students. As you all know, probably better than me in many ways, it takes a village, right? We can't do anything in this life without others, even though we pretend that might be the case. And that's one of the really important messages that we help our students to understand and hope that they learn and understand and implement within the rest of their lives is, yes, it is your journey, it is your path, it is your life, but we have all of these people around you that want to help create opportunities for you. So what I hope to share with you all today is a little bit about some of our individual students and some of their stories, give you sort of a general overview of Waukegan College and what we do and how we sort of do the work that we do, and then share some data, right? Some numbers and some statistics surrounding the work that we do, in particular with some of our graduating high school seniors, as well as just some basics data and statistics for our college students in the work that I specifically do. So if you all aren't familiar with 7 Habits, this is one of those 7, beginning with the end in mind. And truthfully, a portion of this presentation comes from the brainchild of some work that Aaron, our executive director, and I did together. So we're gonna have some things in here that has a little bit more of Aaron's flavor, but I think is important in communicating the message of what we do. So with our students, part of the reason why we do things like the year-end celebration is not only, for the obvious reasons of, our students are crossing the stage, they're, stepping into this next milestone in life, but we want our students that are in 5th grade, which is how early we start in our program, to see sort of this end goal, this finish line, right? So that they realize this is something that can actually happen, right? In many cases, a lot of the data around first-gen students and access programs like ours is one of the biggest uphill battles you have to fight, is creating the belief in the students, right? Helping them understand that this is a realistic possibility. A lot of times with our students, unfortunately, they haven't been told you can go to college and university if this is something that you want to do. You can achieve these dreams, you can do these different things. And so, right, when we think about our messaging to our students, this is what it is. Some of you may or may not have heard of our 1,000 Dreams initiative. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on in the presentation. But this is the foundation, right? Centralizing everything we do around our students. Many organizations will say, yeah, we're student focused, and this is maybe a little bit of the pessimist in me from when I worked on more of the university side. But then as some of these high level decisions are made and as these different policies and procedures are put in place, you lose the student at the center. And so everything that we do has to do with our students and their dreams and the things that they want to achieve. So just a quick story as we continue on here. Vania Torres, one of our students has been in the program for a number of years, started with us fairly early on within the program. And I'm so sorry for the imaging. Some of these were captured with phones and then transposed into the presentation, so unfortunately the imaging isn't super clear. But Vania had a little bit of a turbulent path. So she was actually up at Cardinal Stritch in Milwaukee, and some of you may or may not be aware that Cardinal Stritch unfortunately ran out of funding, and so ultimately had to close their doors. So as she was an upperclassman, was told, you've got to pivot and figure this out. And so, right, the path is never a straight one, but we had good resources, we had good community around her. She was able to transfer out to St. Mary's, continue her program, all her credits transferred and all of that kind of stuff. But actually decided to go the route of education and is teaching at one of the elementary schools within Waukegan over at Glenwood. Yeah,
nice.
so really cool opportunity, real cool program. You know, when she first started within the program was actually on a different trajectory in terms of major and interest. But as she went through her, undergraduate and was doing her gen eds and things of that nature, came to discover that education was going to be her pathway and was her passion, and wanted to be able to give back and create the same level of opportunity. Because although we've been around for well over a decade at this point, there's still a lot of folks within Waukegan that aren't familiar with who we are or what we do, right? For many, many years, to the credit of our previous executive director and our program director, Laura, they hustled and they grinded and they did a lot of the really important things to get the organization off the ground and to maintain it and keep it where it was. And with Aaron having started about 4 years ago, now our goal is to go beyond that, right? So we've established a strong foundation. We really want to take it upward and beyond to continue to expand. Again, I'll have some data and some numbers moving forward through the presentation, but just another quick story. We have students that are all over the country. Thus far, in terms of graduates, we've had students that have graduated from over 50 different colleges and universities. Kiana, one of our students that finished her undergraduate at University of Illinois, now is actually doing her master's and doctoral program at the University of Illinois, is continuing on, actually also functions as a mentor within our program. Her mentee is a freshman at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign right now. So very, very cool. Now that we've gotten to this point where we have over 100 college graduates, we can do some of that engaging with the alumni to get them connecting back and helping, some of the underclassmen and things of that nature. So as I'm sure you all can imagine, with a program like ours, we have many students that will go to similar schools. And so I'm thinking in particular beyond Urbana-Champaign, Hope College over in Holland, Michigan, that we have right now 4 undergraduates. We're gonna have potentially 3 freshmen that are gonna be starting there in the fall. They offer amazing opportunities for our students over at Hope. We're glad to partner with them. And so we try to create, again, this community when as a society we're saying it's all about the individual. So we really try to provide as many different layers of support to our students as possible. So when thinking about who we serve, right? So we have sort of these criteria, if you will, of either the students live in Waukegan or they learn in Waukegan. So let's say, for argument's sake, if they live in Zion but they attend Crystal Ray, St. Martin, right? They are eligible to participate in our program. Or conversely, if they go to Carmel Catholic High School but they live in Waukegan, they can participate within our program. Other than that, we don't have any specific GPA criteria or other sort of academic criteria. We really are hoping that, and again, I'll touch on this a little bit more moving forward, we want students that want to engage, that want this opportunity, that are hungry, and they're willing to put that effort forward and participate within the program. Anyone familiar with the Schuler program that existed for a number of years? So Schuler was a similar type of program, college access related program. One of their big promises to students was that upon their high school graduation, entering college, they offered them X thousands of dollars for them to be able to attend school. We have scholarships that we help facilitate and financial supports that we provide our students. But the thing that we like to share with them most is really what we're providing you is information and access, right? The things that you may not know or may not know you don't know, right? And so ultimately, as long as the students are hungry, they have passion, they're driven, and their families are locked in and willing to support the students as well, they can participate in our program. So in total, when we think about the Waukegan Public Schools, it is one of the top 30 largest school districts in the country. It's one of the top 3 in the state. It is massive, right? We're talking about, in terms of high school students, a little over 4,000. Each graduating class is usually in and around 1,000, maybe slightly less. And so with the total school district, a little over 13,000 students, obviously there's a huge need. There is one singular college and career counselor in the district. One singular college and career counselor in the district. So that partnership, the work that we're able to do with the district, by no means are we covering a majority with the total students that we have now. Again, I'll show some more numbers here in just a little bit. Once we get to our 1,000 Dreams initiative that I referenced earlier, and again, I'll show you a graphic here in just a little bit about that, that will still be only about 10% or so of the entire school district that we'll be serving. So obviously an essential program, essential opportunities that we're creating. We're serving, specifically through our on-site programming. Now, these students that are in middle school, they're not necessarily like Waukegan to college students, but they participate in our variety of different programs that we offer. So I'll give an example. We have an African American male initiative at Jack Benny Middle School. It was identified as a school with a higher percentage of those individuals. And we have an individual by the name of Dave who's working with those young men, 6th through 8th grade, in, again, just starting that conversation. All the data shows that the earlier we get started, the better. And so it was kind of surprising to me when I worked on the university side of things, starting about 10 years ago, how early we were getting into schools, like elementary school, fifth graders, 5-year-olds in some conversations and things like, as a kindergartner, I'm not thinking about college, obviously, right? But the level of creativity and the level of ways that we engage with our students, it makes a lot of sense, right? Again, creating this belief, having a level of consistency, having a cadence to what these students are seeing and hearing and experiencing, so that by the time they get to me, we're just executing, we're just dotting I's and crossing T's. It's all there, right? The capacity is there. We have a large portion of our parents that participate in a variety of different ways, whether it's through guiding us through different activities that are off-site or being with us on-site, coming to our larger events, of course. We have a parent committee that we want to make sure and hear from all of our different populations so that we're serving them correctly. Our parents are essential. In the early days of the program, our students wouldn't have eaten if the parents didn't make the meals or bake the cakes or do whatever the case may be. So parents are heavily involved. In fact, one of our alumni, Scarlett, works with our parent committee and does like educational things around this whole sphere of academics and education and opportunity and things of that nature. And then those parents have the chance to, when we bring in new students, help orient the new parents in the program. So really kind of a cool pathway that we have for our parents and families. And then in terms of total students that are enrolled in the program, we're at a little over 300 now. So we've worked again heavily on trying to start at a young age. In the past, we were recruiting high school age students. We still recruit high school age students. So for this current recruitment cycle that we're in right now, looking to bring in about 30-ish new students, majority of them being underclassmen. A good chunk of them, less than a dozen or so upperclassmen. But again, we want to get them as early as possible. So with that middle school program we're doing, that's really the future of what we're looking to do, is get them in at that point, and then we can really, sort of have a much more robust program for them and moving forward. So program model, right? So it's all of these different things. There's all this jargon and terminology within higher education, but we essentially split it into 3 different areas. So from 5th through 10th grade, we call it college readiness. So they have individual and academic planning processes. We do, specific mapping out each year of the opportunities that they're going to have. So whether it's like, these are the classes that you should be taking, this is what you should be thinking about, these are the activities that we want you to be signed up for. Each individual student has a specific plan with their academic advisor. So for each grade level, we have an individual that serves those students. So generally speaking, with the total numbers that we have, each advisor has anywhere between 25 to 40 students or so that they're working with. I'm the one exception. In college, we have 74 students right now, and we'll grow a little bit next year. But they have a variety of different services. We work with individuals like my old physics teacher from high school, Mr. Cosgrove, who provides a variety of different tutoring opportunities for our students. We again have whole family programming, bring in professionals, right? Because by no means are we the end all be all on any of this information, but we're very lucky to partner with a number of talented and experienced individuals in mental health areas to provide workshops and information and support to our students and families. And then one of my colleagues, Jacqueline, she helps to sort of do the bird's eye view, if you will, of all the different college visits and the field trips and the experiences. For example, this summer we'll have right around a dozen students that are going to be going to DC. They're going to visit institutions like Georgetown in the area. They're going to get to hear from former Waukegan graduates that work within the Senate or work with Congress people and things of that nature. Going to get to see some of the museums. I'm actually quite jealous. I was on the books to be able to attend, and we had to move some things around. It needed to make a little bit more sense who was going to be on the flight, but at the end of the day, really cool experiential learning pieces for our students. In terms of college access, which is one of the areas that I help to work with, our 11th and 12th grade advisors. So as you can imagine, ACT, prep, test, any sort of test prep, really SAT as well, helping students do what we call brag sheets. So starting to help them identify the things that they're good at. From a cultural standpoint, many of our students are so darn bashful, they don't want to share. Like, these are the amazing things, these are the talents, these are the things that I have that I'm bringing to the table. I know with Angie, one of the amazing things that she does within our office is gather those stories so that we can continue to tell the good word of what our students in the program are doing. And sometimes it's hard to get students to volunteer for those things because they're just not used to it. It's just not something that they're familiar with, right? And so important for us to, in this portion help increase that confidence, continue to bolster and overlap the knowledge that they've already started to acquire, and really drill down on what they're looking for in a school. So we call them fit factors, right? So how far is it away from home? How much does it cost? How big is the student population? What's the student to faculty ratio? All the things, again, that I'm sure that you all are very familiar with. Our amazing 11th and 12th grade advisors help our students work through that process, along with a number of other partners that we work with. And again, I work with College Persistence. Thankfully, as we continue to grow, our staff has continued to grow as well. I'll be hiring on another individual who's going to start in a couple of weeks, so we can split the cohort in half, and then I can start to engage more with alumni, and really in a more formal way create direct pathways for our students after they graduate from college. So whether that's internships or job opportunities or so on and so forth, I was lucky when I was on the university side of things to help build relationships with organizations like Jockey International and Abbott Labs and Abby and so on and so forth. And so looking to formalize that a lot more. It's not something that historically we've provided on a deeper or formal level, and so want to continue to push the envelope on the opportunities we're providing for students. So I've sort of already touched on a number of these different things, and I think in the interest of not boring you all here as you're joining us this morning, I'll kind of lightly go over these again, but again, getting them as early as we possibly can, their potential and performance, Aaron likes to call it the hunger and hustle, and if they have hope, right, the 3 H's is what he calls it, and then family integration. It's essential in everything that we're doing. And again, this is just one particular study, but within the realm of higher education, more and more data saying the earlier, the better. So when we think about our early intervention approach, right, we're focusing on our competencies, right? So academic success. So we know that often in these demographic of students, sciences and math, we struggle in these areas. So really hammering those things home. That's where a bulk of our tutors focus in on as well. Working on executive functioning skills, really cool programs similar to, again, things I'm sure that you all have heard of before, where students have to invent something and then they have to make a presentation about it. And you'd be surprised. I mean, we hear really, really cool, really, really smart and strategic projects and concepts coming out of these students. Building really good habits, right? So learning the value of keeping yourself organized, of learning how to prioritize your time. I still have a physical calendar and agenda that I use. These students are like, I don't even know what is this? What is this paper you're talking about, right? We have, obviously integrated technology and things of that nature, but want to make sure that our students understand what it takes to continue on through the pathway, right? They need to have curiosity, right? They need to be self-led. They need to have that drive, that individual, right? You all know the saying, you lead a horse to water, right? We can do that. We can provide you that information. We can provide you that access, but you have to be willing to put in the work, helping you understand, as a student, what your place is in the world, not only how you advocate for yourself as an individual, but your broader community. So we do specific workshops and programs around helping raise the awareness of students on which ways they can engage and how they can make their mark, not only on our community, but in the broader world. And a lot of kind of know thyself, who am I, right? Like, what does all of this mean? Because as we start to think about whether it be major, career, what school I want to attend, many times our students in the past, they struggled with figuring out what they wanted because they weren't super familiar with that introspective piece. Again, it's this community-oriented mindset where people often are thinking about others prior, and so they just haven't taken that time to be able to do that. And so ultimately, we know that our students, in many cases, not in all cases, but in many cases, want this. This is the opportunity they want to pursue, but we want to make sure that it's truly deeply something that our students want, and they're not just being forced to do it. Now, of course, there's some of those, right? Students that their parents want them to have better opportunities and all of that, but for the most part, our students are super eager and want to have the opportunity to continue to learn and grow. Wilma Rudolph said, never underestimate the power of dreams and the influence of the human spirit. We are all the same in this notion. The potential for greatness lives within each of us. Again, just something that sort of frames the thought process around how we go about serving our students, creating this idea of you can do these things, right? You have the ability within you, you have the capacity, you just need to bring it out. So that hunger, hustle, hope that I had shared before for how we identify our students. So we have them apply online. They come in for an interview process, 1, sometimes 2 rounds, depending on the situation. We split up the students and their families, so our advisors specifically will interview the students, and some of our upper level programmatic staff will then interview the parents, just to see if it's a good fit, if they have an understanding of what we do and why we do it, and if they're willing to participate in those different areas. So, again, with the parent engagement, we have the mentors, we have the educators, they volunteer and do a ton of different things. We have specific programming just for them. They accompany us on the college visits and the field trips, academic advising. I actually was just down at DePaul yesterday with one of our rising college freshmen and her mother, And when we stepped out of the meeting, the young man from the admissions office, they also function as their financial aid officers. Super helpful, extremely knowledgeable, very open. I mean, it was amazing. If we had more like him, we'd be in a completely different situation, I think. But when Mom was leaving that appointment, she's saying there was just so many different aspects to this that I didn't even imagine. Like, you're just thinking you're paying your tuition and that covers everything. And she's like, well, wait a minute now. They got a bus pass that you can or opt in or opt out for. They have a health plan where, when you start to look at the details of these different things, it really starts to change your perspective of like what all goes into this process and how many different offices you have to be in touch with, right? It's overwhelming. I was in school a little over a decade ago. And by the time I graduated, I still didn't know all the different resources and all the different avenues that I could walk throughout this process. And to this day, even with the time that I've been within higher education over the last decade and the amount of colleagues that I've made at different institutions and the amount of students that I've worked with, the landscape is always changing. And so ultimately, super glad that she was able to make it on that trip with us and learn from that experience, because you don't know what you don't know at the end of the day, right? And I tell our students all the time, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. You have to ask, you have to have that conversation. Otherwise, you'll never get an answer, right? And so at the end of the day, really quite cool what we're able to do. These are some of the different schools that are represented over the years. And so, again, just sort of general data statistics here for you all. For this year, our high school seniors, 37 of them, little asterisks there. We have a senior that, because of their individual status, has decided to take a gap year from a financial aid standpoint. If the individual waits a little bit longer, it'll actually be better for them to start school. And so we really have 38 in total, but 37 seniors have applied to over 373 schools across the country. We've had 184 acceptances, 36 denials, 23 that were waitlisted, and this is the total financial aid that our students have been offered this year. Really, really amazing. We have amazing students. Again, we're very lucky, we're very fortunate, but I can't discount the level of work that my colleague Mayra puts into working with these students. She is week in and week out, at least a couple of days a week, working with them in a program that's called Scholarship Club. So, of course, there's institutional aid that folds into this, and I have to take a look once everything is said and done to see what the exact breakdown is. But she has this Excel spreadsheet that has probably, if not thousands, for sure hundreds of different scholarships, private scholarships, some from public institutions as well. But students are literally going month to month to month as soon as September, looking for scholarships, applying to these scholarships, trying to create these opportunities. Our main goal for our graduating students is they have an out-of-pocket cost of $3,500 or less. We try to get our students as close to zero as possible. Sometimes easier said than done, but we've been very, very lucky in the organizations that we get to partner with. So again, I'm very fortunate that I get the chance to work with our college students. This is Alexis Valdovinos, who earlier this spring actually was on an international trip. She was predominantly in Spain doing her study abroad experience. She was there for a majority of the semester, but of course, when you're in Europe, you gotta travel to the rest of Europe because the tickets are just so darn cheap and accessible. So we helped support her through that experience, and she got the chance, this was with her in London, but she got the chance to go to France and Germany and a couple other spots. And so, right, like first time for her ever going out of the country. And so, her younger brother's in our program. Really, really cool. We're looking at trying to see how we can better tell the story of her experience during her study abroad, but really quite amazing. We actually have, I'm trying to think, so Isam is in the study abroad program right now. We have a number of different students that have had the chance to take advantage of these opportunities. And again, we are trying to promote as much as we can this learning, right? This experiential piece, because the academic piece is important, of course. That's why we're here, right? But that experiential piece, I would argue, is probably just as valuable. At least in my life and in my experience, and during my undergraduate experience, I can't speak enough on like how important it was for me to get my degree. But the amount of lessons that I was able to learn about myself and the world around me, and different friends and colleagues and things, invaluable to say the least. So in terms of college persistence, this year we have 74 full-time enrolled college students at a number of different schools. 9 students are still sort of in that undecided, aren't quite sure. Over the last 10 years or so, that has been the highest growing major or area of study, is undecided. I don't know what I want to do yet. And I think from my understanding of how higher education has existed, this is a conversation that's starting to come back around, where we're helping students understand you don't need to absolutely have everything concretized by the time you start school. School is meant to be exploratory as well. Now, when you tell the parents that and you're saying you got to pay $10,000 out of pocket every year, I'm not paying $10,000 for you to figure it out, right? You need to have an idea. Of course, there's that pressure, But this is generally across higher education across the country, undecided is still the largest growing and largest major for incoming students. Majority of our students are within STEM, so 42 out of the 74, so a large portion are whether pre-med or doing engineering or mathematics or physics or whatever that looks like. Majority of our college students are in that realm, which makes sense because over the last 10-15 years that K through 12 has been focusing heavily on STEM. So again, makes a lot of sense for us. The remainder of our students are sort of spread out between the social sciences, businesses, and pre-law, and sort of things of that nature. A couple of our students want to study psychology, thinking about being mental health clinicians, so maybe we get to tap on them in the future to help support our students and things of that nature. So of our 13 are graduating this year, estimated to have, again, 37, 38 that are going to be coming in. So looking to have very close to 100 students for this next year. So Willie, we're going to need him. He's starting again in a couple of weeks. He's going to predominantly work with freshmen and sophomores, so that sort of transitional phase, that's what he did. I worked with him at a previous institution. That was his main area of focus. And again, I can then really lean on finishing the journey and how do we continue to solidify what you've already done and move forward in a strong position. Another one of our students, Juliana Reyes, she graduated from Waukegan High School last year, freshman this year at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. She was in ROTC in high school, has continued that, acquired some scholarships to continue to participate. But as a freshman, I don't think I've ever heard of a student so involved. She does a wide variety of things on campus. She gives tours. She does a number of things within ROTC. She's a part of several different clubs and organizations on campus. She's already on the e-board for one of those clubs. She's doing a ton of different things. I'm actually going to go see her and another student that's a freshman, Jasmine Beecher, tomorrow to check on them. As a part of the programming that I do, I visit every single one of our freshmen, or one of our colleagues will visit every single one of our freshmen at some point. And honestly, Juliana, she's a rock star. Definitely a perfect example, as many of the students that I share with you all today, of what we're looking for in our program and what we hope students can ultimately do. But she had this mentality of, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get to where I need to go. So like from an academic standpoint, as you can imagine, stellar, right? Obviously, to the discipline to be in a program like ROTC, I don't follow direction well, so I probably wouldn't have survived. But she is a shining example of our stellar students that we have within the program. She's on a pre-med track actually, so she's looking to become a clinical physician. So our vision is 1,000 dreams, to be serving 1,000 students, 5th grade all the way through by 2030, and supporting them and guiding them on the path to college if that's what they want to do. And I will say, with a lot of the need, and we're in the very preliminary stages of this conversation, but as you all, again, are probably aware, across the country we have this high need for vocational work and for vocational efforts, right? And so we are starting to have the conversation with the city and with the school district about maybe providing some additional services on what we can do in those realms. Certainly college and taking this academic route is a great way to have success, right? The data is irrefutable in terms of what you're going to make over your lifetime, how much less chance you'll have of being unemployed. Like it's irrefutable. But we also recognize that there's varying degrees of what the definition of success means, right? And so we want to create as many different opportunities for our students as possible. And again, in much less of a formal way, we've had students go through the program that decided that's the route they wanted to go, and we've supported them anyway. We have a young man who's a sophomore at CLC studying auto mechanic work. We've had a young lady that studied at the Mario Chikrosi School of Beauty and graduated and got her degree, and now she's actually decided that on top of that, and she's making good money, she wants to get a business degree as well and start her own business. So, we have students that kind of go backward and forward and come back around and all that stuff. Really, truly amazing. We're very, very fortunate. So we really, in order to achieve this, programming is our number one, right? Meeting our students where they are, figuring out what their needs are, helping serve them in as many different ways as we can. Having presence, we've deeply extended our relationship within the school district over the last couple of years. Again, that one high school counselor, Barry Schwartz, amazing person, amazing individual. We collaborate in a wide variety of ways, whereas there was some info share challenges that we had with the public school district before. She's given us full keys to the kingdom so that we can get her information, we can get information so that we can better serve the students as partners. And we've been lucky to work with a wide variety. Again, we're not arrogant enough to believe that we have all of the information in the world to do this work. So we rely on everyone else that's bringing a level of expertise to help us improve the experiences that we provide to our students. And then the platform, right? Again, utilizing technology to our advantage, building out our recruitment management system, building out how we gather data, and therefore, how we, work with our students and with the broader community. And so, yeah, I was like, I couldn't remember if I did it last slide or not. But, you know, I think ultimately when we talk about Waukegan College, what we're talking about are students who historically haven't had this information. They have not had people telling them that this is something that they can do. Having been born and raised in Waukegan myself and had the opportunity to go to college, I was lucky that my parents attended school. But even in my experience, I remember my freshman year, and I loved my alma mater, and I had a great experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But I remember having an academic advisor my freshman year that told me that I shouldn't take 15 credits because of the school that I was coming from, that I wouldn't be able to handle the rigor. And ended up getting all A's and B's during that time. I ended with over a 3.8 GPA within my major, and ultimately could have continued on to become a doctor in athletic training or physical therapy. Decided to go a different route, but at the end of the day, you know, even from my experience in the time that I attended school, there's still these things that are dragging our students down, these stereotypes and these negative views and these negative perspectives. And so, you know, what we had the chance to do in working with our students, again, we're very blessed and very fortunate to have the opportunity to work with our students in ultimately helping them achieve their dreams. So I thank you all. I'm sorry I went a lot longer, I think, than I originally planned, but I wanted to kind of give a little bit of a overview of like what we do and how we do it, and then give you some of the updates. So I hope that that information was helpful